We have an election special here today. Jay's Corner, welcome. My name's J.O. I'm the author of Maximize Your Medicare. I am also an education fellow at the Alliance for Lifetime Income, certified financial planner. Be sure to subscribe to Jay's Corner, jo.substack.com. The link is in the text below the video. So what I thought, I was going to make short videos for a very small set, but I thought just to go live for the greater public here. Be sure to go to these websites here. So a lot of time is used here in order to try to help shed light on things that may seem scary, mysterious, namely financial topics. And, you can see over here, this is my website here where it talks about me and, kind of what I believe. It's not only about my work, but really what I think about work, which is, how to explain financial topics to different people from different walks of life. And I say that as everyday people. And, that everyday people can be, professor emeritus. It's just that by everyday people, I mean, you're not really necessarily thinking about finance and the theory of finance, much less the practice of finance, which can be different. That does not mean that you cannot get it. That is different. That is different. I am very sure that common sense can be used from your everyday experience or professional experience, whatever that set of experiences is. But money is complicated, has this naming problem, as you can see up here on the website here. And, we happen to be down here, right? Which is that the public discourse is about philosophy and politics. But the reality is that the math of money, the way that prices are determined, right, calculated, estimated, that's different. That's a different topic. And it is part of what I call, the most important single takeaway for you today. And in every video, Jay's Corner, Maximize Your Medicare, 2 channels, newsletter, book, is we need to decouple, right? I'm not here to tell you what your personal philosophy should be. I'm not here to tell you about what the role of the government should be in American life regarding healthcare delivery. I'm simply not. Nevertheless, when you start mixing them up, what you have is you conflate stuff. It shouldn't work this way is very frequently the response I get on almost every topic. It shouldn't be, you've now gone into philosophy. You've now infused the conversation with your political view, which I promise you, Humana, Prudential, they don't care what your philosophy is or mine, right? They're about, these are the rules. This is our best estimate. We've got very, very capable competition just across the street. That's the world of finance. That's how you should always understand the world of finance, to try to get away from the noise that you can see here in these 2 pictures, philosopher and partisanship. On with the topic here. Let's just continue. I'll get off the soapbox. So it's still the Medicare annual election period. It runs through December 7th. Here are my findings. I stated in a prior video here, almost certainly a mess. We got it. Right? I don't have a crystal ball. That said, I'm tried to have a very good command of the obvious. Now, what is obvious to me comes from my perspective of different inputs and data points and observations from things that the public doesn't see. That is true. But I've been saying for most of 2024 that there is no other logical conclusion other than Medicare has to be a mess in 2025. Has to be. Why? Inflation Reduction Act, Medicare Advantage risk adjustment process, and all of that has come true. That's not a surprise. This is not a victory lap by any means. Just all you need to do to give you an idea, just use your common sense again. Humana, the stock, is down 45% year to date. 45%. Mr. Market has told you what they thought about how difficult even administering Medicare is as a standalone product. And the reason I choose Humana is because it's not a diversified set of equally sized different industries or, individual, employer, PHM, et cetera, all the other things that go into health insurance carriers. But it's quite centered on Medicare. And this is what the market thought. Thinks. Not thought, thinks. 45% down for the year. That sounds like a mess. For individuals, this has meant that doing nothing is costly. Maximize your Medicare, that's one of the main driving topics, right? They're the things that you control, meaning don't drink Jack Daniels before 8 a.m. That's healthcare, right? Take care of your body, fine. And different people are going to do different things. And I'm not here, again, we're not saying you shouldn't this, you shouldn't that. That is back to, philosophy. I'm not here to dictate your philosophy. But I am saying that the things that you don't control, by which Mr. Market has told you what is going on, that doing nothing just does not make sense to me. Glossing over without checking it doesn't make sense. And for those of you who have checked with us, our existing client base, which we have contacted, we are in touch with the entirety and are, 90% done? We found that multiple hundreds if you do nothing. So married couples, double that. For newcomers, this, of course, is a new time for you. And the Substack has a paid version. Behind there sits a webinar where I gave a 90-minute talk on the nuts and bolts of Medicare, where it's centered on the things that are not in the documents. Meaning, it's there in the documents, but it's easy to gloss over, as you know, right? If you read a textbook, you're not quite sure what should be highlighted. Instead, I spent the 90 minutes there to just simply highlight them. Next one, ACA, begins on November 1st, which was yesterday. So much like you would expect from what you can hear, maybe, if you're paying attention, healthcare use, healthcare utilization higher. Hospitals cost higher. Health insurance, the price of health insurance starts with the price of healthcare services, period. It is not the other way around. No matter what any health insurance, it establishes a price from a base, a starting point. That starting point is the cost of healthcare itself. Orange juice gets its price from the cost of raw oranges, not the other way around. Observation then, clearly, premiums higher. Premiums higher. So what I've done here on these other tabs, you can see it here. Or let me go back to Medicare just briefly, which is here. There's this tab on how to get our free guidance for people who are new here. Just go down here, click here, and off we go. This is a form I just want to point out. We are the highly regulated. We don't have any choice but to collect this information, right? We're the highly regulated by federal, state, carrier. We have to keep this for 10 years. There's no getting around this. It's to give you an idea. I told you that if you have your common sense, that you can understand what we are going to say, and then if you follow it, then we'll be able to explain it to you. When it comes to money, the fact that you have a PhD in physics doesn't qualify you to know what these rules are. Nevertheless, in probably the most stunning email I've ever received regarding this, I told a person, you need to sign this so that I can look at your information and make suggestions. The response is, I've never heard of it. I'm like, what? This person isn't from financial guidance of any sort. And that was the response. Unbelievable. This happens. This is not a pity party today, but this actually happened. These rules are there for your protection. I'm going to follow them. The end. The end. I don't understand. I don't understand how we get in Ann Arbor here, and out it'll come. And just very quickly, I'll show you what has happened. So now, after some little bit of hemming and hawing, right, let's just call yourself 45, male. And let's just add a spouse, 43, female. Doesn't have to be female, by the way. Continue. And now here's the critical part. And here is the critical part. If you want to access the lower premium, you need to have this stuff correct. And this is more complicated, more technical than you would believe. And it is not always negative, right? When I tell you it's complicated, I'm not just telling you complicated to make it scary for people, but it's that if you flip over the rocks, or if you have assistance to flip over the rocks correctly, there can be money there for you, and it's a lot more than people believe. Much more. What you can see here, for example, is this. I told you at the beginning of the video, today's broadcast, which is almost over, that I'm the Education Fellow with the Alliance for Lifetime Income. This is a research note I wrote for it. I'm that person who can't stand the sound of his voice on an answering machine message, outgoing answering machine message. Why I probably haven't re-recorded it in like 5 years, because I don't want to listen to my own voice. I also don't like to reread my own writing. But I would say that this is probably the most important paper that I wrote, and it's all pretty because someone else did it. But you can see that this paper here explains advanced premium tax credit, and that's what you are claiming down here. So now what you have here is for this two people, this is $635 a month lower. Times 12. Like I said, this is not $635 a year lower. This is $635 a month lower. Times 12. Okay? So now you math geeks out there, where are we? $8,000. $8,000. That said, it is complicated, which is not necessarily negative, because what ends up happening is that you may overstated it here. For example, if I continue here and just we'll skip here because this is the nuances of choosing correctly, and then just see your plans. And what you have is a set of plans. And what can happen is this, is that when you change this, and let's say you actually have 40,000, now all of a sudden it's 732 another $100 a month, $1,200 just by having this. And for that, I wrote this research paper so that you can get the basic idea about how many different things are going into creating the right number, correct number here. If you follow the link, we will be able to reach out to you. We will do so. Because even from here, what ends up happening is people choose wrongly here. It is not simple. I have said in Maximize Your Medicare, right, that Medicare is actually the simple. The language is standardized. People know what Part B is. They know how to define it. They know what services those are, specifically why federal government tells you. Under the Affordable Care Act, that is not the case. This is Ann Arbor, for example. And for example, this is just Blue Cross. And this is not to say Blue Cross good or bad, right? This is not a sales presentation by any means, broadcast. Is that the identification of who and the network here is more subtle than you might believe. Now, here in Ann Arbor, to be candid with you, quite good relative to the rest of the country. I can tell you in other places, even more populated places, you would think, or maybe that's your intuition to say, okay, Chicagoland, Miami, big city, it's all the doctors are going to take. That's actually not the case. And it's fragmented in ways that you wouldn't necessarily predict. Atlanta, incredibly splintered, fragmented. So, with that in mind, that period now begins now. I still think, as always, I always think doing it in advance is important. Why? Because there are too many opportunities to make errors over here that we are trying to help people avoid. And the way to avoid it is to get on top of it early so that you can get an idea about how many moving parts. You can see this, 80 plans, 80. And this is not that many. In the big cities, this will be 100, 110. I've already seen that in just a day. So we're taking inquiries now. You can certainly use this tool. Know that the following, very importantly, certain states will have different enrollment windows, and you need to use the state-specific portal in order to access this advanced premium tax credit. You cannot just go directly to healthcare.gov if your state has a specific portal. New York State, perfect example. New Jersey, right? They have state-specific portals. You need to access it there. We are set up with many of them. So, that's the lay of the land on the ACA. And as you can see, I just gave you a simple example of just two people. So the idea that people are either overpaying or not getting the full set of payouts that they want, tens of thousands of dollars, tens a year, yes, certainly the case. That will continue on. We will have, the question will arise here, which is that the Inflation Reduction, the ACA APTC expansion, if you will, due to end December 31, 2025. It's due to end in 2025. And this has the very subtle implication here. The ripple effect here is, if anything, the financial planning aspect is more important in 2025. Because what will happen is the cutoffs in order to get the maximum amount of estimated savings will move. So as a result, for our clients here, we are hard at work thinking through 2025 now. Why? Because, for example, someone's retired early. They want 2025. They're going to want 2026. Well, in order to get the maximum here in 2026, we need to make sure that that person has the money to pay for bills and groceries, and also get this. Every year, what will happen is this all gets reconciled. Someone gets a tax bill and said, oh, you made an error here, and during the reconciliation, you were only eligible for $532 over here. You've got to pay back the $2,400 in the form of a tax bill. So it's important to get this right. This is a very good guideline in terms of to try to explain the mechanics, the ideas of what go into it, and so that you're more aware of it. And you can see how big it is. And now you can understand the order of why I've got things here in Jay's Corner and, maximize your Medicare GH2 benefits in this way, right? In other words, it should be no surprise. And I said it in the last video on the Jay's Corner, is you start with health. You start with health. And the reason is not only because different people will choose different plans based on their health. And also importantly, I need to know about you so that you can plot the savings strategy, which is a financial plan. So, if you are living under a rock, the third and final segment here is here, this bottom section. As I said, jo.com, I'm not here to influence people here. I'll have my own view. I'm sure some people have dug in their heels on theirs. I've already voted. So, that said, what ends up happening here is the question is we will see in the coming days, and we are going to have this very complicated random combination of these two events right here this coming week. We're going to have an election. We're going to have TVs on all night. Tuesday night, I think that's fair. And on Wednesday, we probably won't have a resolution. And even then, who knows? That is certainly the source of volatility. The Federal Reserve by itself is a source of volatility. So what you have here is two separate sources which can both compound each other or cross each other out, and don't ask me which one it's going to be. All we can do is observe, right? No investor is big enough to say, well, the market is going higher, the market is going lower, interest rates are going higher, the dollar is going higher or lower. No individual party is that big. No individual party is that big. To predict it is, candidly, you're coin flipping. No, it's worse than coin flipping. You're flipping multiple coins all at the same time and predicting each one of them and the combinations. And even if you had the combination of coin flips correct, you still don't know this one. Right? Which is that The market is a discounting mechanism which takes into account all the possible data inputs, which include predictions of the future. Interest rates, for example, have inside today's interest rate is inflation expectations of the future. Ask your monetary economist. For you macroeconomists at home, right? It's not only real rate of not real interest rate plus today's inflation. It's about inflation expectations. In the same way, all risky assets have this. We don't know the outcome, and more importantly, candidly, is we don't know the effect it will have on market prices, on risky asset prices. We do not know. Okay? The question here for people, as it has always been here on Jay's Corner, be sure to like and subscribe. Does this fit your strategy? Does this fit your financial outcomes? Does it, for example, some of you have not enough risk. Some of you have too much risk, right? Over-reliant on financial market outcomes. Under-reliant because you're behind, you're underprepared, your savings aren't high enough. Your answers here is not really, I don't find it, it's interesting, air quotes, to some of you, right? It's interesting which one of these is going to happen, up or down. Yeah, maybe. That is possibly the case. And we'll be watching, of course, as will the entire world. That said, what you still have is ongoing up or down. And basically what I'm saying here is this next week is going to be the most volatile of the year because this blue curve on the right, it is wider. The number of possible outcomes is now much higher with much greater likelihood, meaning that what you thought was impossible a month ago may be very possible over the next couple of days, right? In terms of how much the prices can change, right? We know where the prices are today. Go to fidelity.com, it doesn't even matter, Yahoo Finance. You can find the price today of what it's predicting to tomorrow. What you cannot tell is if we have one combination of inputs, what will the output be, right? Meaning that it is not enough to simply say Federal Reserve moves 50 basis points, Federal Reserve moves 25 basis points, Federal Reserve does nothing. You've got one of two probable winners of the presidential election. It's a combination of both of these, and then you can only observe the market reaction. Even then, my point to you is, does this fit your strategy? It does bring up one of the defining principles here, right? Which is to show you how backwards is wrong. I find the energy that we use to watch the price of Google to be using energy is misallocating energy and resources for most of people. And by most, I'm talking like 99%, more than 99%. Because over here, let's agree, no person is big enough or influential enough to drive the price that way. Warren Buffett, even Warren Buffett. Right? For example, he could say, okay, well, I think the stock market's going higher. He can't buy enough to drive it higher by himself. No, he can't. Okay? My point is that what's more pertinent, what's more useful to people is, okay, do I need risky assets to be higher? Why? Well, the reason is because I have kind of considered this. I've considered this. And what am I looking at through time? I'm thinking about retirement. I'm not thinking about retirement. I need to think about over here. Right? And now we're much, much more years out. And now you can also understand why I started with the idea of, and like I said, referring to the last video, who are you? What do you want? The who are you has to do with why I'm starting here with Start With Health. That's part of who are you. And the reason is because I'm trying to assess how far out here we need to consider. From there, from those inputs, then we think about the strategy. And then from there, you then have your asset allocation. Instead, what do we have? We have you turning on CNBC or reading the Wall Street Journal or watching the news and seeing business news and see stocks at record high. Or, stocks down 10 in August, right? Steepest 3-day decline in 5 years. Right? So in other words, what you end up having is this is, okay, in those scenarios, what do we have? A think through. A thought process of, okay, this set of stuff happens that you do not control, that you have no input to. You don't control the price of Google. You're not going to influence it. Neither am I. We don't have a crystal ball. So given this, what I'm saying is that the outcomes are going to be wider, more variable, more volatile, more uncertain over the next week, more so than almost any time, because the reality is that August we knew, right? If you understood correctly about what was happening in Japan in the yen carry trade, you could have seen videos. I had explained it here 2 years ago on what the yen carry trade was. It reversed, and then the outcome was then therefore known, right? That was very, very clear, which is if A, then B. The issue here is if A, not necessarily B. This is not August, right? This is not August of one candidate wins. This is going to happen for sure to markets. No, can't say that. More like this. You can, and this is what I encourage the people, is that we can have a framework, right? We can have an estimate. We need to give ourselves very wide latitude to say, okay, what if we're wrong? And that's not 0%. Because if it's 100%, right, 100% in zero favor, that clear that you knew what was going to occur, we don't need a plan, to be candid with you. You shut off this channel. You don't need to know about any financial matter, because the prices are determined because this is taking into account this simplest diagram here, where there's more than one possible outcome. And when you don't think so, that's how you get in trouble, A, right? Because you wrongly assigned likelihoods of being wrong. You wrongly assigned the cost of being wrong. And that will vary depending on who you are and what do you want. All right, that's enough for today. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'm not, for a bunch of different reasons, right? You don't see tons of video. I am only trying to add videos when something's very topical or very urgent. We're too busy here to be candid with you, to be a normal YouTube, channel provider. So be sure to hit the subscribe and the notification bell so you can see when new videos arrive. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great week and good luck to everyone over the coming week. Hopefully we have a peaceful resolution no matter the outcome.